Hi again, everybody. This video is sponsored by contribution from Anonymous, and here's the story. Hi, Ollie. I've been wanting to reach out to you for some time and tell you my experience growing up with my narcissistic mother. I'm sorry I don't have a whole lot to donate at this time. I do enjoy your videos and found them to be incredibly helpful. I have held my story inside for so long, and I think it has greatly affected who I am as a person. But my experience has also taught me what I never want to become. I also want to give you fair warning. There are some vulgar and horrid things I must mention, as I've kept this inside all my life. Just to give you a little background, I grew up in an interracial household. My mother is a Caucasian American, and my father is from Trinidad, African American and Portuguese descent. My mother had 5 children in all. I am the third child, now 31 years old, with 2 boys of my own. There is a very brief period in my life I can actually remember my mother loving me and showing me affection. This was during the time she was still with my father, so I guess I was her favorite at the time. Soon after, my parents split and my dad moved out to live on his own away from my mother. They were always arguing from what I can remember. Unfortunately for me, when my dad left, I was forced to stay with her as she was collecting child support and SSI benefits. I had epilepsy seizures at the time from an incident that happened as a child where my older brother pushed me down a flight of steps and I hit my head very hard and blacked out. I had to be on strong medication throughout my childhood to control it. Thank God I am fully recovered as an adult now and I no longer suffer from seizures. One thing I have to say is I am eternally grateful for is my father. He did have his own issues and a drinking problem, which unfortunately he did pass away 6 months ago from, but he did teach me compassion and made sure to always tell me he loved me. I learned my core values from him, and I think that is what saved me as a person. I miss him so much it hurts. After my parents broke up, it was still at this time that my mother met another Caribbean man. That would be later on. That would later on become the father to my younger brother and sister, another abusive narcissist who was also enjoying putting me down and making fun of my weight that I gained from the medication. It was at that point I no longer mattered to my mother. I probably reminded her of my father, and she was on to the next man. Since then, life was hell for me. My older brother, different father from a previous marriage, started to rebel and took a lot of his frustration out on me since my mother completely neglected him. He was always failing in school and getting into trouble. Her relationship with her new man was unstable and very abusive. He was a bass player for a band where they play music at a hole-in-the-wall local bar. He was a huge cheater and was always coming home fighting with my mother. She got pregnant then with my younger brother, thinking she could keep her new man this way, which of course is BS and never works. I remember one instance she confronted him right in front of me in the living room. She was about 7 or 8 months pregnant, and he threw a glass vase at her and shoved her to the ground. I was scared to death. I was only 6 or 7 years old at the time. Of course, she stayed with him and would later have another child, my youngest sister, who I am very close to. But that was the norm, punching holes in the wall, screaming, arguing, breaking things in front of us, and telling us what a piece of shit her man is and how he's cheating on her with all these women. I never wanted to be home, and I never felt worth anything. I would play in the streets for hours, sometimes barefoot. She would never look for me. My mother completely ignored my existence since then. I literally started failing classes and not taking care of my outward appearance because I felt like it didn't matter. In 1999, she decided we needed to move up north to Maryland. I have family there in order for her to start a new life and leave the man she was with. Mind you, I begged her to let me stay with my father, who was living in Florida at the time, but she wouldn't allow it. She was still collecting for me, and that would not have been a benefit for her. My dad even begged her and told her that he did not want any child support from her, but she did not let me live with him for spite. I was so depressed through this transition and heartbroken. So we moved to Maryland And this is where things got much, much worse. My older brother was in jail at the time for a robbery. It was just me, my younger brother, and sister living in the home. I did mention my mother has 5 children. The oldest, my sister, did not grow up with us. My mom gave her daughter to her father after she allowed one of her boyfriends at the time, this was in the 70s, to molest at the age of 4. I didn't exist then. This incident, I recently found out that my mother would bring her boyfriend around my sister, who was only a little girl, and my mom would have sex in the same bed with her. The guy would reach over and touch her while having sex with my mother. My mother got angry with my sister, saying that he was molesting her, and called her a little slut and a whore. Mind you, she was only 4 years old when this happened. So moving back to Maryland, I'll try to sum up as much as I can. This is when her promiscuity really took off. She would have so many men in such a short amount of time. She always brought them home in front of us and would cook them special meals and give them whatever man she was with special attention. Her appetite quickly went from black men to Latinos. They were the new trend for her, and soon after, we became niggers to the family. I know this because she has been my sibling, because she has called me and my siblings niggers whenever she got mad about something irrelevant. Did I mention she was a raging alcoholic? Anytime she would do something horrific, she would sober up and blame it on drinking. I distinctly remember her doing and saying god-awful things to me and my siblings while sober. So what was her excuse then? Her weekend routine was to go out to the sleaziest bars and bring the trashiest man she could find. Barely speak any English, mostly drug addicts, perverts, missing teeth. You know, the classy kind. Some of these men would come to me. By that time, I was only 14 to 15 years old. Luckily for me and my younger siblings, we were never raped or molested by the random guys she would bring in from the streets. I remember once she brought home at least 4 different men in a single week. I confronted her about it, and she immediately turned it around and would say, well, your father's a piece of shit, and you love him anyways. By the way, anytime she has to face responsibility for anything, it's someone else's fault, or alcohol was to blame, etc. I hated who she was. I hated how she treated us. We were completely worthless in her eyes. Her men, or narcissistic supply, were always put on a pedestal. She has said several times she wishes she had us with Mexicans instead of niggers. She'd say, if it wasn't for her, we would come out looking like monkeys. That feels really good hearing from your own mother. Of course, all these nasty men she brought in, there is one in particular she stayed with for a few years who's also a Mexican drug addict. They would get belligerent drunk and smash things in the house. One evening, he ran out of the house and she chased him. She slammed open the door, and we had just gotten a new kitten. The poor kitten nearby, and she knew this. And when she swung the door open, it snapped the kitten's neck, and it started having seizures and died. We were horrified and ended up burying the cat in the backyard. It was her and her boyfriend fought all the time. She would cry over him and would come to hug and comfort her, and she would tell him to get the fuck off her. There was another instance when my mom and her boyfriend were drinking. We lived in a townhouse then. I remember coming down the stairs to go to the kitchen, and she was on the living room floor, legs spread against for all to see with her boyfriend eating her pussy. I'm glad my younger siblings didn't witness it. My mom and her boyfriend just laughed and thought it was funny. She never encouraged me to become anything or made me feel worthy of love. I struggled all my life with self-esteem and trust issues. I have distanced myself from just about everyone and pretty much my entire family, her enablers, except my younger brother and sister who are still living with her. I'm trying to motivate them to chase their goals and become independent. My little brother has recovered from a heroin addiction, which was severe, and I almost thought for sure he would die. He changed his life around and is doing much better for himself, and I am proud. He's going to college to become a chemical dependence counselor. My baby sister is a talented tattooist who has also been under my wing, and I practically raised her myself. I am divorced and I have 2 children of my own now. I am not the perfect mother, but I try my very best to be involved and give them the love I never had from my mom. Although a bit late, I recently graduated college with a degree in business. I pushed myself, and my dad also supported me until his passing. I pretty much have no family or friends that I am close to otherwise. My children are everything. I've never brought men home and have exposed them to the abuse I experienced growing up. My father did his best, and he wasn't the perfect father, but he tried. I can honestly say he was an important piece of the puzzle in my life. Anonymous. Well, that's terrible. But what we have here is another mother more concerned with dick and attention than her own children. Dick, attention, money. That's what drives the divorced narcissistic mother. The thing with the race and the nigger comments and, that's a status thing. That's her just trying to get money, because they feel the lighter your skin, the more value you have, the more. It's narcissism and it's disgusting. And I'm sorry you went through it. The outward sexual activity, the eating her pussy in the fucking kitchen. Yeah, that's awesome. That's what you want to see. No problems there. No wonder why your brother ended up on heroin. You've done some wonderful things for your family, for your siblings, and I hope you can get them away. I really do. I really hope you can get them away. The divorced narcissistic mother. Money or dick and attention, and sometimes both. Stay away, everybody. Thank you for your contribution. Thank you for your story. I appreciate it. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any opinions or advice in the comment section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a narcissist you'd like to expose, or a topic you'd like me to cover, you know what to do with the PayPal and my email links in the description box. I'll have a video right back to you. This is Ollie Matthews. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all again soon.